Hello and welcome back to coverage of the Apex Gaming $5,000 Modern Open here in sunny Caldwell, Ohio. I'm Todd Tandy Anderson, joined by Elliot Rapp. Say hi, Elliot.
Hi, Elliot.
We have 5 rounds down. We're moving into round number 6, and we're getting very close to finding our top 8 competitors. These last 2 rounds are going to be full of people battling it out for those coveted 8 slots, trying to get as much of the prize pool as they can muster. We're going to be watching 2 players this round that we've already seen today, but a matchup that we have not seen much because it's a pretty unique deck on one side of the table. Let's start with Autumn Kuzma playing Merfolk. This Merfolk strategy is something that we saw earlier in the day. Cobbling together tons of cheap creatures with Ether Vial, using things like Lord of Atlantis to make your things harder to block, both being larger and having Island Walk. This deck just seems really sweet. It's something that's been around forever, but these new builds with some of these new Merfolk seem really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Merfolk deck has become a lot more interactive while still being able to apply pressure over the years. You see things like Flood Pitch Drowner, Harbinger of the Seas, even Autumn choosing to come prepared with a full 4 copies of Mistcaller this weekend.
Yeah.
Really just it's turned into kind of more of a toolbox deck as opposed to just a pure Swarm plus Lords.
Yeah. On the other side of the table, Deshaun Johnson, one of our mainstays here on the Apex series, playing what many consider to be the top deck of the format, even if it's not performing that well lately. That's Boros Energy.
Yeah, so I mean, you've seen Boros Energy hang around the past year plus ever since Modern Horizons 3 does release. Not a whole lot out of the ordinary going on here. We've got the God of Souls, Ocelot, Pride of Johnny, Flage, all of that good stuff, and really just looking to be aggressive, get to the battlefield early, and see if you can kind of assemble a large enough board to compete with these Merfolk.
Yeah, I think probably the most important card from the Merfolk side of things is going to be Ether Vial. It's always been
Yep.
the most important card on turn number 1, whether you have it or not. There aren't that many answers on Deshaun's side of things to kill Ether Vial on turn number 1, so I think if it comes into play, it's going to be unchecked for quite a while. On the other side of the table, the most important cards for Deshaun probably going to be some of those one-drop creatures. How do you think Guide of Souls versus Ragavan versus Ocelot Pride matches up against Merfolk?
Yeah, I think the most important card in this matchup is going to be Guide of Souls.
Okay.
Being able to take to the air and fly over the creatures that are being presented from the Merfolk side of things is going to be very important. Ragavan, Deshaun's going to have to be on the play and hope for something like an Aether Vial start to get in with that card once, because I don't think it's going to be attacking much. Something like Goblin Bombardment, I'm going to look at to be the key card in the matchup to be able to push through those last points of damage. I don't even think something like Flage is going to be that much of a factor in the matchup because of things like Tishana's Tidebinder on the other side of the table and being able to play at instant speed.
Yeah, a lot to love from the Merfolk side of things in this matchup. We go Swarm, that kind of plays hard against the spot removal packages that Boros can have, and being able to brick Ragavan with just like a one-drop creature. That's not something Ragavan runs into too often, but when Ragavan faces off against Memnites or a ton of one-drop creatures, that's usually where it starts to falter and where Boros starts to falter.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a super interesting matchup. I think Boros probably slightly favored just because of the amount of disruption and removal they have for key pieces, but I'm really excited to see how this turns out.
Yeah, same. All right, well, the players are situated in the feature match area and just about ready to go, so let's head on down for round number 6. All right, it's going to be Deshaun Johnson on your left and Autumn Kuzma on your right, closest to the camera. Players here are drawing their openers. And it looks like Deshaun going to be on the mulligan to 6, and we are good to go. Looks like Autumn won the die roll. Turn 1 Island. Here is the powerful Ether Vial. Let's get Ether Vial on screen. This is an artifact that if you have it on turn 1, is going to ultimately generate a ton of mana over the first couple of turns, mostly because you build it in a deck that wants to sit on a certain mana value, and that mana value is usually 2, sometimes 3, but usually 2.
Yeah, and here we see Deshaun as well with Guide of Souls as the 1-drop.
Yeah.
Both players have their 1-drops of choice here early game.
Ether Vial ticks up to 1, so now Autumn can kind of cheat in some of those cheap 1-drop Merfolk and use the 2 mana to cast one of the more expensive Merfolk. And we do have quite a few flash creatures from Autumn's side of things, right?
Yeah, so this on 2, it could be a Flood Pitch Drowner or Vidalian Hexcatcher as the flash options. Certainly, with that Vial on 1, it could represent two threats coming into play immediately for Autumn. Right, so we see Deshaun considering his options here, and is opting to turn the Guide of Souls sideways, challenging Autumn's ability to put creatures into play. Autumn just taking 1, falling to 19.
Yeah, not a whole lot to fear with the Guide of Souls attack. Something like Flood Pitch Drowner could come in and trade, but I think that's a reasonable trade. Normally, it's going to come in and like tap your thing down anyway. Voldaren Hexcatcher can't trade because it's just a 1/1 on his front face. I think one thing you might need to be scared of is like Hexcatcher plus Violent Mistcaller, and if that is something that you're afraid of, Deshaun probably has something like Galvanic Discharge to break it up.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. It signals to me that Deshaun likely has a copy of Galvanic Discharge to ambush anything that was going to come out. And just Elegant Parlor for turn and leaving the Surveil on top. Autumn's going to activate Vial and put in a Mistcaller here at end of turn.
Okay, so Mistcaller, how does this affect tokens? Let's read it.
It does not. So,
Non-token, so
yeah,
it doesn't
Mistcaller,
stop Fable of the Mirror Breaker.
no.
Okay.
So we do see that Vidalian Hexcaster plus Mistcaller combo hitting the battlefield for Autumn, and Deshaun opting not to fire off a Galvanic Discharge here.
Well, if you know, I mean, Voldaren Hexcatcher can sacrifice any of the Merfolk to do the Curse Catcher trigger, and so sacrificing the Mistcaller on the Galvanic Discharge to save the Merfolk would be quite easy there.
Yeah, and it looks like this will be an attack for 3.
Mutavault comes down as well. That could be a nice pressure in a turn or two. Graded defense in this spot too.
Yeah, what I really liked from about that sequencing from Autumn is that she activated the Vial to put the less critical Mistcaller in before casting the Hexcatcher,
Yeah.
right? So Deshaun couldn't pick off the Hexcatcher with a discharge when there was nothing left to trade for it instead.
Sean, no play with that 1 mana yet, considering firing off one of those Galvanic Discharges. At this point, it can all go wrong at a moment's notice. This is usually the danger zone when it comes to playing as Merfolk. Vial on 2, bunch of mana untapped, a Mutavault hanging out, and still a grip full of cards.
Yeah, I think I do like firing off this discharge here if I'm Deshaun. Just being able to use your mana and also force Autumn to take some action here. So it might just be sacrificing a Mistcaller. It might just be basically trading the Mistcaller for the discharge. But I think that's a trade that Deshaun's happy to take here.
Yeah, maybe should have. If that's the play, right? Maybe this should have happened before the 2 damage got in, because this might be a really tight racing scenario.
Yeah, theoretically, the timing there, Deshaun just wanting to get some more information.
That's
But
fair.
Merfolk is great at concealing what's in their hand, especially because it does have that Aether Vial that
Yeah.
allows them to play on Deshaun's turn.
It's so funny. Autumn's hand might be complete trash, but Ether Vial on 2 is just scary.
Yeah, I mean it might be trash, but I'm not about to find out whether or not it is.
I
Yeah.
ain't gonna buy it. I'm gonna sit over here and build up my board a little bit. Deshaun fetches quickly for a plains. Could mean Blood Moon. Likely going to be a 3-drop. Could be Flage, Fable the Mirror Breaker.
Yeah, Blood Moon certainly not at its best against Merfolk and a bunch of basic islands.
Certainly true, but I do like shutting things like Mutavault off.
Here we do see Goblin Bombardment being cast from Deshaun. We'll see if Autumn has anything to say about that.
If she has some sort of interaction like Dismember, it could be that she wants to stop that, but instead we have a Flare of Denial, a hard counterspell here for the Goblin Bombardment, and that's going to keep her Merfolk protected here for some time to come. Now, Ocelot Pride as the follow-up, and this one is pretty scary if you're Autumn and a Merfolk player, because this one can go super wide and doesn't need to use the attack step to get things done.
Yeah, and I love the sequencing here from Deshaun. But it's going to be met with a second Flare of Denial, this time sacrificing the Hexcatcher. But Autumn's down, it looks like just 1 card in hand, so a lot of the pressure here stymied. And this is a situation where I did see a Flage in Deshaun Johnson's hand. That could definitely come down and clean up this game if given the opportunity.
All right, so Autumn not going to flash anything in. Deshaun also not going to bite, not going to try to run into a 2/2. And gonna go back to Autumn. Leaves the vial on 2, has Mutavault at the ready, can fire that up and attack. Could also use it to play some defense, but it's hard to block Guide of Souls.
Yeah, and here we do see the Mutavault being activated and the attack coming across for 2. And it looks like before damage there will be a Lord entering. The Hex Catcher is the choice, and that'll be an attack for 3, Deshaun dropping down to 10.
Okay, so life total is getting a little dicey here for Deshaun. Merfolk traditionally great at winning races like this because they don't deal themselves a lot of damage with their lands, but Flage might have something to say about it. The big bad, I don't know, god? No, Titan. Elder Giant, excuse me, comes down, eats the Voldaren Hexcatcher, and Autumn cannot sacrifice in response to prevent the life gain, so we are going to gain the 3 off of it, up to 14 from the trigger from Goddess Souls as well. Gains an energy, and now going to go back to Autumn.
Yeah, and now that Flage is threatening to come back this turn. Autumn Dare used 2 of her 3 main deck Flare of Denials. It is a card that is being cast from the graveyard for its escape cost, so it isn't affected by something like Mistcaller or even Tishana's Tidebinder. And it looks like Autumn may have run out of gas here a little bit, but it is going to be a Mutavault with a Master of the Pearl Trident coming in for 3, knocking Deshaun down to 11.
Okay, setting herself up to have that Flage eat another creature, though. What are you going to do against Flage when you're an all-creature deck, huh?
Yeah, I mean, so Autumn does have access to 4 Sink into Stupor, so that might be an option just to get Flage off of the table. Doesn't look like she has access to it to interact with Flage on the stack, which would have been preferred.
Okie doke. Sean untaps, finds a second planes off of the fetch. Mostly, I guess, to make sure that we have Flage unlocked, even in the face of our own Blood Moon or something like that. But here we're going to bring it back from the graveyard for 4 mana. Escaping it. And we're going to gain 1 and deal 3 to Master of the Pearl Trident and gain 3 life. Up to, I believe, 18 now. Make sure life tools are confirmed in just a minute. And then an attack with the Guide of Souls as well.
Yeah, I believe that should be accurate for Deshaun at 14.
Okay, back to Autumn. Facing down a Flage. Need something like Flood Pitch Drowner. The door's going to close very quickly.
Yeah, just see it passing of the turn back, but Drowner certainly among the best draws here. Not only would lock the Flage down from attacking, but would be able to potentially send it back to the library going forward if Deshaun doesn't have anything to interact before it can activate that ability.
All right, pre-combat. We're going to try to cast a Flage from hand. This is so that Guide of Souls can get an extra energy and start jumping.
Autumn might have found a Sink into Stupor here.
All right, 3 damage. Going to go to face. Guide of Souls gains an energy. Deshaun getting pretty high up on life. All right, so before attacks are declared, I mean, Autumn has to know Deshaun's not going to put counters and flying on the Flage. Has to know something's up.
Yeah, so it's either you stop Deshaun pre-combat to stop the Lightning Helix trigger, or you wait for a little more information. But if the Lightning Helix is deemed important, you'll want to bounce the Flage pre-attackers.
Some really interesting spots where sequencing really matters in Modern. It's fun to see, fun to watch, fun to talk about. Singing a Super, though, going to be cast here before attacks. Now Guided Soul is going to jump and gain flying and +2/+2.
Yeah, so that'll come across for 3, drop Autumn down to 14.
See if Deshaun has a follow-up. It's just a Windswept Heath, and we're going to pass it back. No Ether Vial activation for Autumn. Leaves Vial at 2. Draws for turn. Need something probably like Silvergill Adept to gain some momentum.
Yeah, I think the optimal draws here for Autumn are going to be something like, Silvergill Adept into maybe Harbinger of the Seas. Harbinger shutting off the ability for more red mana, and it does look like that was what Autumn picked up.
Okay, but Deshaun is fetching in response, and if he's got something like Thraben Charm or a Galvanic Discharge, can float mana, let it resolve, and then kill it. But it looks like we're going to go get Elegant Parlor here and get a Surveil. So to me, that signifies that this is just going to resolve.
Yeah, that's what it looks like to me as well. I mean, certainly Deshaun is currently ahead in the race, but like you said, Merfolk are very good at winning these race scenarios once they've constrained their opponent's ability to progress their battlefield. So, this Guide of Souls might look good for now. I'm not sure for how much longer that'll be true. And Deshaun just untapping only access to his white cards.
Okay. Guided Souls versus Harbinger and a prayer. Mutavault also turned off, just to be clear. 3 damage coming across. Autumn going to go down to 8. Now it's funny, Harbinger is we call it a Blood Moon type effect because it does have the same kind of text as Blood Moon, except it turns things into islands. When you're playing a Blood Moon deck, often your basics don't contain mountains because of your own Blood Moons.
Right.
And in this scenario, it's coming back to bite Deshaun because he's unable to find red mana underneath his Harbinger.
Yeah, Deshaun does have one mountain in his deck list, but when the Harbinger was cast, the fetch land on board was a Windswept Heath, not able to pick that one up. So looks like it's just going to be attack for 2 and a pass back.
Okay, attack for 3. Autumn going to go down to 5 unless there's any effects here.
Looks like Autumn might have some action here at Deshaun's end step. That looks like a Tashawn's Tidebinder to me.
That's what I saw.
Yep, that is what will come down.
Okay, so now we can attack for 5, down to 10, and then the attack back puts us to 2. So we do need some help here. Autumn is currently losing this race on board.
Yeah, Autumn's going to need something like Floodpit's Drowner or perhaps Sink into Stupor to really turn the tide of this game.
A 1 mana card. Oh, I can't do that.
Nope.
Now, there are some new rules with Harbinger and Urza Saga. So, get a pass on that. We're going to attack for 5. Deshaun going to go down to 10. See if Autumn has any follow-up here.
Be 2 mana for a Mistcaller, and then that's a Mindspring Merfolk.
Yeah, Mindspring Merfolk is a really nice one. Does this account for lethal next turn?
I don't believe so. That's only going to add 3 power of attackers to the board. So right now that would only be an attack for 7 because the Merfolk itself does have to tap to activate that ability.
Okay, one thing we can do though, since it puts a counter on everything, I think we'll be 1 damage short of lethal with just what's in play. But if we draw enough cards and find one of our Lord of Atlantis or Master of the Pearl Trident, that could be enough with Ether Vial to get across the finish line.
Yeah, I think what Autumn's hoping to draw here is any Lord or a Floodpit's Drowner. If this was not either one of those, Sink into Stupor would be a fine answer as well as Odawara. All of those, Odawara not good enough, rather. There's no legends on board for Autumn.
Yeah.
So it's really just Sink into Stupor or Floodpit's Drowner or a Lord here that would be able to put into play off of the Aether Vial.
All right, so Mindspring Merfolk, the one that's the most important here after the Harbinger, Autumn looks like drew a land.
It was Odawara,
Oh,
but
yeah.
not enough mana. And now going to activate Mind Spring for 2.
Yep. So we draw two cards, and if those two cards are Floodpitch Drowner, Lord of Atlantis, Master of the Pearl Trident,
Vidalian Hexcatcher,
Vidalian
too.
Hexcatcher. So we
Yeah.
got 10 outs, 10 hits, two cards to see them. A lot of potential here.
Harbinger of the Seas was one. I didn't catch the other.
And we're going to be just
It's
one damage
it's a
short.
Mutavault. Yeah, I think that is going to be the game going to Deshaun Johnson if that was indeed a Mutavault picked up. Deshaun just kind of sitting there with a smile on his face is like, all right, either you got me or you don't.
Yeah, here's 9. We attack for 3, and Deshaun Johnson going to win game number 1. A very tight race. Both players extremely low on life. Autumn with multiple draws there. 3 draws, in fact, to find some piece of interaction to stop the Guide of Souls. Didn't do it, and Deshaun takes game number 1. All right, as these players reach for their sideboard, I'll start off with Autumn. Her sideboard is 3 Consign to Memory, 2 Dismember, 3 Engineered Explosives, 2 Force of Negation, 2 Mystical Dispute, a Relic of Progenitus, and 2 Stern Scolding. Of these cards, I believe Dismember and Engineer Explosives are quite good. Stern Scolding, definitely solid against Boros as well. Things that interact with creatures tend to be what is going to be coming in here. And I think most of the counter spells, things like Flare of Denial, are somewhat weak in this matchup. Maybe we'll think about getting rid of like Tishana's Tidebinder. Doesn't seem like there's too many really important triggers on the other side. There's a lot of triggers, but they're all like micro triggers.
Yeah, I actually think the Tidebinders likely would remain in simply to potentially deal with a Johnny flip.
Okay.
It also could counter a trigger. For instance, the Guide of Souls paying energy causes a reflexive trigger. So you could have Deshaun pay the energy and then counter the ability to give counters and
Mm-hmm.
flying. Um, Deshaun's side, looking at his sideboard, not a lot for this matchup. He's got 1 Blood Moon, 2 Celestial Purge, 2 Clarion Conqueror, 2 Orm's Chant, 2 Rest in Peace, 2 Surgical Extraction, 2 Wear Tear, and 2 Wrath of the Skies. The Blood Moon's definitely looking to get those out of the deck, but really, what to replace them with? Maybe Wrath of the Skies, but it seems like you're kind of content to fight on the creature axis if you're Deshaun. Probably would wipe too much of your own stuff if I were to guess. You might even look towards, Orm's chance to be able to just fog an attack for a turn. That might be something that you're looking to do, but not a lot of options here for Deshaun. Clarion Conqueror could shut off Aether Vial, but that's only one aspect of the deck.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that this is just a sideboard built for other matchups, and that's one of the upsides of playing a deck like Merfolk, right? Like, obviously, if your opponent is very anti-creature, things like, for lack of a better, temporary lockdown,
Mm.
Wrath of God, sweeper effects, spot removal, these are all pretty good against Merfolk, but they're not damning, right? They don't end the game on the spot. They just kind of give you more small ball pieces of interaction.
Yeah, I mean, with being on the draw in particular, I might expect to see something like Wrath of the Skies be the swap in for Blood Moon, simply because it lets you play towards more of a flage game and really
Sure.
take a bit of a control
Also, you
stance
can
if you
just
have
fall
to.
behind against Merfolk, and
Yeah,
Wrath of the Skies just instantaneously resets the board for you. So, all right. Well, as these players are shuffling up for game number 2, say thanks to our sponsors for Apex Con and this weekend's events. We are sponsored by Once Upon a Galaxy, the brand new auto battler from great minds of Magic like Luis Scott Vargas and Matt Nass. Also, the creators of Storybook Brawl. It's an auto battler that's free to play on mobile. It's also available on Steam today. We're sponsored by Moxfield.com. Check out Moxfield if you'd like to build or share decks with your friends. All of our deck lists from Apex Cons are posted on our personal Moxfield page, and the event deck list from today's event will likely be up as the top 8 begins, since top 8 is open deck list. We're sponsored by SpiceRack.gg. If you are looking for a tournament to play near you, their tournament locator is Peak. If you're looking to run events, SpiceRack.gg is a great place to do exactly that for your store or tournament organizer. All right, players are ready to go, so let's head on down for game number 2.
here we do see Autumn bolting in a Sink into Stupor
Ouch.
as land 1. Uh, but no follow-up play, suggesting maybe a Stern Scolding or a Dismember.
Yeah, I think Dismember would be extremely painful to start off with the 3 damage to self, but I think that, it makes a lot of sense if it's Stern Scolding for sure. And pass turn for Deshaun, maybe doesn't want to walk right into it. If he's got a pair of 1-drop threats, maybe he's going to wait till turn 2 and deploy both of them at the same time. Maybe it makes it a little harder for Autumn to contain both.
Yeah, I mean, playing Sink into Stupor as your first land signifies a lot of things out of a mono blue deck, right? It's indicating that there aren't any more islands, or perhaps there were other lands where Mutavaults or Cavern of Souls, things that don't cast a Stern
Yep.
Scolding. Autumn following it up with an island kind of signifies, hey, this was my draw for turn.
Right.
So we'll see if Deshaun's able to take advantage of that, but you do see Deshaun fetching the basic planes in an effort to play around Harbinger of the Seas.
Yeah, and honestly, that's one of the strengths of Blood Moon effects like Harbinger of the Seas, Blood Moon, is your opponent will operate in a certain way that acknowledges it, and just by acknowledging that the card exists and playing in a certain way, it gives it's that strength to the card, even if those cards aren't cast.
Yeah, exactly.
So fetching planes here means he didn't get Elegant Parlor, which is a full surveil, right? And we know how good surveilling is in Modern.
Yeah, and it looks like Flood Pit's Drowner is just going to hit the battlefield just to get some aggression going for Autumn.
Now Autumn is kind of scared because she knows that Deshaun likely has some creatures in hand, right? And is just not playing them for fear of some sort of counterspell. There's no way Boros keeps a hand that's just like 2 lands, all removal.
Yeah, Deshaun definitely sniffing out the Stern Scolding here, or perhaps wanting to play around something like Subtlety, but Stern Scolding is a much better option, or maybe even something like Spell Snare that he assumes might be in Autumn's deck.
All right. Moment of truth, Deshaun. Do you start jamming? Even if he had a 2-drop there, if he has Galvanic Discharge in hand, maybe he wants to just hold up that mana for as long as he can so that he can float red in response to a Harbinger and then kill it after it's in play. Once Harbinger comes down, he's completely locked out of red mana.
Yeah, but Goblin Bombardment is going to be the play for Deshaun.
You said he does have a mountain, right? That's actually sick that he has Arid Mesa, so now he's actually insulated a bit. Another island for Autumn. Here's Lord of Atlantis. Let's get Lord of Atlantis on screen. This is one of the rare old Merfolk that actually pumps all Merfolk, not just your own. And so in mirror matches, sometimes you're giving all your opponent's Merfolk Island Walk, which is pretty bad.
I'd like to know how many Merfolk mirror matches we've seen in the year 2025, just across all of Magic the
Can
Gathering.
you stop? Can you
I'm just saying
stop?
I'm just interested
Okay.
in those numbers, Todd.
That's fair. I am not because it's likely very low.
Oh, back in the day though, like you definitely saw Merfolk mirror matches where that came up.
And you definitely left in all 4 Lord of Atlantis every time. You just used it to control the kill. I actually remember it was a Elvish Champion was one that saw a little bit of play back in like 7th edition standard era or 8th edition standard era because some elves popped up, and it would just be a way for you to kill your opponent on the spot if you found your tutor effect for it, because all your creatures would be unblockable.
Yeah, that's great. And we do see Galvanic Discharge here being cast by Deshaun, likely going after that Lord.
Yep. It's going to leave 1 energy behind. We're going to go back to Deshaun. Takes a draw. Turn number 4 coming. With Goblin Bombardment in play, also has the ability to turn any one of his creatures into a ping to take care of that Flood Pitch Drowner. This is assuming that, Autumn plays some sort of removal spell or does something that incentivizes Deshaun to actually sack the creature.
Yeah, it looks like Deshaun's got a second copy of Goblin Bombardment in hand. Not necessarily the most ideal.
Pretty bad, I think.
Yeah.
Pretty bad.
But, it does mean that he would be able to more easily kind of sweep up everything with the Wrath of the Skies and be able to redeploy Goblin Bombardment if need be. Looks like the Flage is going to go upstairs at Autumn, and then before it's sacrificed to the non-escape payment, it'll be sacrificed to the Goblin Bombardment to try to take care of the Drowner.
Now, there's a a weird decision that Deshaun has to make there, because if he decides to do 3 damage to Autumn, then the sacrifice of Flage for 1 damage from Goblet Bombardment can be stymied with a single Voldaren Hexcatcher.
Yeah, but we do see Deshaun opting to go for that play and not getting punished there.
No, I think he targeted the creature because Autumn's still at 16. So I think he was thinking about going face and then targeted
Oh, okay.
the creature. Because remember, Sink into Stupor untapped as a land on turn 1 dealt 3 damage.
Yeah, you're right. I think what actually happened was the 3 damage was pointed at the creature and the 1 damage from the bombardment was pointed upstairs.
All right, well, here is another Flood Pitch Drowner, not doing what it's supposed to do, a la stun counters and tapping things down and whatnot, but being a creature to put into play to kind of leverage all of these cheap counter spells and interaction allows Autumn to pressure Deshaun while developing over the next few turns.
And Deshaun with 4 cards in hand, but that Windswept Heath combined with an Elegant Parlor does represent the ability to bring back Flage next turn.
Okay, that's definitely going to be on Autumn's mind here.
And it looks like Autumn has Harbinger of the Seas hanging out, as well as a Master of the Pearl Trident. I believe are both cards that I've seen, and this is going to be the Harbinger, which will shut Deshaun off of being able to return Flage.
Okay, Deshaun can get Sacred Foundry here off this Windswept Heath and float mana to kill the Harbinger, if that is something that he has access to. If not, still has the Mountain, and that can take care of the Harbinger with a future removal spell. I don't think there is a second Mountain, though, so that is not an option for Flage to come back.
Yeah, we might see something like a removal spell plus another land next turn from Deshaun.
Okay.
But I think if he had that option, we might have seen him fetch the Surveil land instead, because right now he's short of being able to return Flage. If there is a Galvanic Discharge plus another fetch, for instance, that would get there as well.
Sean doing some quick math. At 11 life, 4 points coming at him. Does have 2 plains and a mountain, so while Harbinger of the Seas is disruptive, it is not backbreaking.
Yeah, and something here that we've even seen in the past is turning those, Sink into Stupors into islands. Autumn certainly found enough lands this game, but for future reference, those are able to play the Sink into Stupors as just normal lands without the need to bolt yourself for have them come into play untapped.
It's always a nice feeling. Okay, so here is a Flooded Strand. That's going to be an island under the Harbinger. Now the question is, does Deshaun have anything even to play? He hasn't shown us yet. He's tapping 4 mana. What could this be? Wrath of the Skies for 2? Will kill his own Goblin Bombardment if he does that.
Yeah, that is what we're going to see here with 1 energy in pool already. So this would take care of everything on the board.
Yeah, and then Flage will be ready to come back next turn. Maybe Autumn has some sort of interaction here. Maybe wants the Flare of Denial, sacrificing the Flood Pitch Drowner. And with 1 energy floating, he doesn't have to go all the way up. And so something like Voldaren Hexcatcher, not as effective as it could be. But a clean 2 for 2. Deshaun trades Wrath of the Skies and Goblin Bombardment for the Harbinger and the Flood Pitch Drowner.
I'm actually a little surprised that Deshaun opted to leave open the Sacred Foundry instead of the Flooded Strand.
I was just thinking that, because now he can't fetch the Elegant Parlor.
Yeah. Guide of Souls is going to be the follow-up, yeah. And it'll get met with the stern scolding that's been represented since turn 1.
And I don't know if you were looking at Deshaun's hand, but I'm almost positive he's had that Guide of Souls in hand the whole game.
Oh, almost certainly.
Okay, so back to Autumn. 5 mana at her disposal, but Flage threatening from the graveyard. Down a game. Boros a really tough matchup, especially when Flage is coming back. And no play for Autumn, passes it back to Deshaun. Is it Flage time? Is the Elder Giant coming back? getting revenge on those that put him in Hades or whatever. I don't know the lore.
Does look like that's going to be the choice here from Deshaun.
Whoa, here he comes.
I'm just kind of nodding in a
Mhm.
resigned fashion here. 3 damage going upstairs.
And 3 life, so the race is definitely going to be harder, even if she can get the Flage off the table, which is not proven yet.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever tried to race a Flage, Todd. It's difficult.
It is difficult. It's not impossible,
No.
but it's very difficult.
And Autumn's already used 2 of her Flood Pit Drowners,
Yeah,
cards that could have cleanly dealt with this Flage. But we are seeing Deshaun fetch shock here, and we'll drop it down to 10 as a result. And that'll be Ocelot Pride, which will make a token on the end step.
Yeah, and while it's not in play this turn, Deshaun does have a backup Goblin Bombardment in hand, so every token that he's able to make is going to make it that much harder for Autumn's Merfolk to stick around on the table.
One short of the City's Blessing.
Autumn takes a draw. Not super happy with the result of the draw, it seems. Staring at this Flage, trying to come up with a game plan, but that's one big baddie.
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of matchup where we really see Boros energy shine, right? Like this is a deck that very much wants to play against other creature decks, other decks that are looking to play fair. I can see engineered explosives here for 1.
Yeah,
So
not that
that'll
effective, but it is an answer to Ocelot Pride at least. Pops it. Ocelot Pride down. Flagey time.
seems like it's always Flagey time, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a bit easier to come back than anyone ever thought, I think. It's funny to me, we talk a lot about the Surveil lands and how good they are, and I know there was a point where Elegant Parlor was the most expensive one, and it might still be the most expensive one, and it's 100% because of Flage,
Yeah.
because it's the one of the fair decks that wants to play 2 of the same Surveil land, so that it can enable Flage from the graveyard more easily, and man, it's good. But for example, if Uro was legal in Modern, which it was for a very short period of time, something like Hedge Maze would probably triple in price.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've been playing my share of Vintage Cube. I've been drafting my Hedge Maze Uro decks, but
Hell yeah, hell
yeah, this is you get to see the power of these Surveil lands, not only smoothing out the draws for these mid-range decks, but also fueling other synergies. Uh,
Well, here is Goblin Bombardment for Deshaun, and Autumn nods, knowing that the door is closing. This is the last draw step, or this Flage is going to eat those last 3 life points. And I don't think that she found it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not seeing any outs here for Autumn. I mean, either the Flage is dealt with. Deshaun's already got enough mana to re-escape it. There's the bombardment into play that's pressuring the life total as well. Just a Lords, and I believe the Svelune was the pickup for turn.
Yep, here comes the hand fan and the hand extension for the handshake. Autumn Kuzma defeated 2-0 Deshaun Johnson, moving to 5-1. Very likely going to be able to draw next round into the top 8. Congratulations on that victory, Deshaun, and condolences to Autumn. A nice run so far with Merfolk, and not out of it yet. 4-2 is a very great record.
Yeah, especially taking her losses late, we could definitely see Autumn in our top 8 as well if she manages to win next round.
Yeah.